Gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Texas, Mrs. De La Cruz, is now recognized for 5 minutes, and I welcome her to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this important hearing on how to revamp and revitalize the banking sector. And I'd like to also thank all of the witnesses for being here today and joining us to offer your insight into this area. You know, I'm glad we are here today on this committee and Congress as a whole to update banking regulations to address emerging technologies. I am a small business owner, and I've grown my business in the good times and in the bad times. And I understand the important need for capital to help develop a business and also for the capital to develop local communities. I'm proud to have worked with several community banks throughout my career and want to see that they are able to remain in our communities to be helpful. I'd like to touch particularly on how to reduce barriers of entry for new banks and how to foster an environment that allows community banks to succeed. I'm increasingly worried about the fact that only 60 new banks have been formed in the past decade. And so with that being said, specifically on local community banks, what are the needs that local community banks in particular do for the needs of local communities do for smaller local financial institutions serve that their larger regional and national counterparts do not serve? Would one of you be able to share with us?
Yes, Congressman De La Cruz. I would say that that is a new bank not just a community bank. A new bank can fill a void, and that's why it's so important to lift the barriers to de novo bank. As an example, in my testimony of the Burden Hand Bank, which literally built horse and buggy lanes in its drive-through for the Amish community. It's very important that new businesses can in any industry can fill a void, and in banking and financial services as well. And that's why Chairman Barr's bill and Congressman Auchincloss's bill is encouraging de novos and lifting the regulatory barriers to them are so important.
And may I ask, how are they different than a regional or national counterpart? What can they do differently than the national counterpart?
Well, ultimately, it's up to them to demonstrate, but just consumers should be given a choice that if they like the services better in a community bank than a regional or national counterpart, they should have that choice. And the FDIC and other regulatory agencies should certainly lift the unnecessary barriers, and Congress should look at lifting the unnecessary barriers as far that prevents them from thriving and giving consumers more of that competition and choice.
Representative, may I speak to your question?
Yes, sir.
So at least historically, the advantage that community banks have had is what's called soft information, right? It's been referenced earlier that, we know you, we know your employer, we know the community, we understand. Whereas by necessity, like a large national bank is going to rely more on metrics. And I'm not trying to denigrate metrics, and there's a live debate about which is better. But my understanding is that one of the effects of regulation has been to chill the use of soft information, because if loans go bad, it's harder to satisfy your supervisor to say, well, we knew them and we thought they were a good risk. Whereas if you can point to a metric and be like, look, there's this line, the line was above the other line, what do you want from me? It's easier to satisfy regulatory scrutiny. And so to the extent that we are disincentivizing soft information and local information, that is going to, place community banks at something of a disadvantage because they're less able to use advanced analytics, but two, creates the risk that worthwhile customers whose metrics don't necessarily look good might be frozen out. Now I should reference in my written testimony, this is an area where non-bank technology firms do seem to be helping in some degree by using sort of non-traditional metrics or using metrics in new ways. But I don't want to say that that is a substitute for that on-the-ground, rooted knowledge that a community bank can provide.
Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.